Before you can emerge victorious in hostile skies across the globe doing the nation's bidding, you have to make it through flight school. You have to earn your wings. I've been a flight instructor at both the training command and RAG levels, and what I know based on the successes and failures of the flight students I've dealt with over the years is regardless of branch of service or pipeline, rotary wing, maritime, strike, pilot, NFO, to complete the program and reach your goal of earning your wings, you need three basic things: aptitude, adaptability, and attitude. Showing up to military flight school, you have to have a bachelor's degree and a commission. Both of those things assume a baseline level of aptitude. But understand that flight school requires a very specific sort of aptitude, the kind that allows you to interpret a weather brief in order to file a flight plan into a destination field and remain above approach minimums, capture the correct airspeeds and altitudes during a standard instrument departure, know the specific performance characteristics of your airplanes at all times, and deal with emergency procedures accurately and decisively. This doesn't mean you need an engineering degree. I'm a poli-sci major. But it does mean you need to have the ability to process numbers and data and do the math and turn it into the appropriate action. So just like professional golfers need to be able to take their games from the driving range to the course once the tournament starts, flight students need to be able to take what they've learned from the ground school and simulator environment to the airplane once the flying starts. They have to be able to adapt their newfound skills from the static environment to a dynamic one. So understand, the first time that you man up an airplane for real with an instructor during a graded evolution, you're going to be nervous, maybe more so than you've ever been in your life. And for all the amazing technology currently in use, there's no way to fully replicate the actual cockpit environment in a simulator. Climbing into the cockpit, wearing a helmet with a mask or a boom mic, strapping into the seat and hearing the noise of motors and the crackle of radios and the intercom is going to feel foreign at first. Flying through choppy skies in a helicopter or pulling G's in a fixed-wing airplane are very unique sensations, and it can be challenging to focus on the task at hand. So you might get airsick at first. In fact, there's an unspoken goal among instructors to get flight students airsick on their first flights. But in short, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I always admired flight students who got sick and got over it and got on with the mission. That takes guts, and instructors respect that. Also, most students stop getting airsick after the first couple of hops. Some don't. In fact, down in Pensacola, the Naval Aviation Medical Institute, NAMI, has a special program for flight students who keep getting sick. It's called Spin and Puke. Most students who go through that process wind up being able to deal with the sensation of being disoriented, and they stop getting airsick. Some don't. And those flight students ultimately choose another warfare specialty. Generally, it's surface warfare, or if their grades are good enough, they can go submarines. Again, the bottom line of adaptability, the second thing you need to get your wings, is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's actually a good posture to have throughout your career, by the way. The third thing you need to get your wings is the right attitude. Now, if you're like me, during college, a C was good enough. 2-0 and go, as we say. That won't work in flight school. Your personal standard has to be 100% on every exam and getting it right in the airplane every time. You can't land safely or comply with course rules or make it to your intended destination 70% of the time. You have to do those things every time. So I assume you're in flight school because among the service selection choices you had, this is the one you wanted. Unlike the mandatory courses you had in college, calculus, chemistry, introduction to literature, whatever, all the course material in flight school matters and should be of great interest to you. You'll want to fully immerse yourself in every detail of the community and know everything about everything. My grade point average at the academy was 2.7, but it was close to, if not at 4.0 for my entire time in the training command and RAG. To make it through flight school, you've got to want it. And let me give you two examples of where I went over and above in order to complete the program. So during aviation indoc, you have to tread water in full flight gear. So you tread water for 10 minutes, and then you transition into what they call drown proofing, where you put your head down and you just sit there and then occasionally get a breath. And it's designed to get your heart rate down, so if your life preserver didn't work, you could stay near the surface for an extended period of time until you got rescued. So I was having trouble with that transition. It was hard for me to stop moving, and I was getting exhausted. And the instructors at the side of the pool are like, stop moving. And I just couldn't do it. So finally, one of them hands me a stick, this long stick, and I grab it. And once you grab it, you flunk. So they have this thing called stupid swim that you can do after hours. So I did a couple of sessions of stupid swim, tried it again, and I flunked again. So I was on the verge of getting pulled back to the class behind me, and I absolutely didn't want to do that. I lived in an apartment complex on the northeast side of Pensacola that had a pool. So on the weekend, I actually put on my flight suit, boots, harness, and helmet and jumped in the deep end of that pool, much to the amazement of my civilian neighbors, and practiced transitioning from the tread water to the drown proofing. And during the course of that session, I had the aha moment where I realized if you, in fact, just stop moving, and at first it feels like your heart is going to explode out of your chest, but if you stop moving, if you're disciplined enough to stop moving, eventually your heart rate does come down and you'll be fine. So that following Monday, I did the flight gear tread water one more time and passed. So later, when I was in VT10, I was doing one of the last two flights, a low level in a T-39. And so during the flight, I got one leg ahead of myself and wound up giving the pilot the wrong heading out of a turn point and got lost. And by the time I discovered it, it was too late to recover, so I wound up getting a pink sheet, a down, on that flight. This was my first pink sheet down in flight school, and it very much concerned me. So if you get two downs, you wind up having to go to a board. And I absolutely didn't want to go to a board because I only had two flights left. I was near the top of my VT10 class, and it was getting close to when we were going to pick our advanced phase pipelines, and I wanted radar intercept officer because I wanted to be a Tomcat backseater. So I seriously did not want to down this flight a second time. So I had a neighbor in that same apartment complex where I used the pool to figure out how to drown proof, who had a private airplane. And I went to him, I said, hey, you feel like flying a low level over southern Alabama this weekend? And he was like, yeah. Will you pay for gas? I'm like, sure, I'll pay for the gas. So we took my low level chart and flew the route. And I was able to put eyes on the turn points at the one where I'd screwed it up and the ones after that. Sawmill, dam, railroad intersection, communications tower. So that following Monday, I had my refly and I aced it. So those two examples prove how much I wanted to get my wings, and I guess the rest is history. Flight school is designed for students to succeed, but it's also designed to measure student desire. So there are opportunities for self-study, things like after-hour simulator sessions where students can put their fellow students through their paces. So you have to be willing to drive from wherever you live back to the base at night, which brings up the topic of choosing where to live. Now, in a fun city like Pensacola, for instance, there's a temptation to live on the beach or near nightlife hotspots. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to have fun in flight school. You absolutely do, and I absolutely did. I'm just saying you don't want where you live to be the party house. Living in the party house makes it hard to study when you have a ground school exam or you need to sleep because you have the 0530 brief the next day. So choose your living situation wisely. Also, in terms of attitude, just know you're always on the clock. In social situations like squadron picnics or hanging out with instructors at the officers club, you're always being evaluated. Conduct yourself appropriately. Again, I'm not saying don't be relaxed or personable or let instructors get to know you. I'm saying don't unwittingly develop a reputation to somebody who overdoes it or is reckless. For instance, I had a classmate in VT10, the first phase of NFO training, who had a Porsche. And one morning, he was hauling ass down Barrancas Avenue on his way to Naval Air Station Pensacola, and he raged by one of our instructors. That instructor cornered him once he got to the hangar after the flight student and questioned his judgment. And I guarantee you that flight instructor talked to the other instructors about the incident, and now there's a black mark on the student's reputation that certainly informed instructor attitudes going forward. That sort of unforced error can affect what pipeline you wind up getting assigned to, helicopters versus jets, for instance. Or worse, It can affect the board's attitudes towards you in the event that things go poorly. Be careful with your personal conduct. There's no reason to make life harder in flight school than it already is. Also, part of flight school is getting criticized. So from the outset, you have to accept that most of the time, even though you think you've nailed something, your instructors are going to find something wrong with your performance. Do not develop a reputation as somebody who gets his or her back up or isn't receptive to constructive criticism. Worse, don't argue with your instructors. There are avenues for airing valid grievances with instructors, but the need for those is rare. Remember, part of the flight school syllabus is to measure how you react to feedback and pressure and how well you respond to those things. Just nod and say thank you and press on. Again, instructors will talk about you among themselves. Do your best to make sure they say nice things. So if you attend to these three things, you will make it to your goal and get your wings. And at that point, you're off on a career of the greatest consequence. The kind of thing you can't believe you get paid to do, and the kind of thing they make movies about. Good luck. I know you can do it. All right, that'll do it for this episode. We just hit 100,000 subscribers, so let me take this opportunity to thank everybody for your support. It's been amazing over the last 4 months or so. If you're a first-time viewer, please join this great community of subscribers by ringing the bell. Become a subscriber so you don't miss anything. Give me the likes and comment. As you can see, I love the comments and I try to engage as much as I can. And if you'd like to help us take the channel to the next level, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/WardCarroll. Also, check the links below for t-shirts, mugs, and How to Get Punk's War, my debut novel from US&I Press. And stay tuned for details on the forthcoming reissue of the Punks trilogy. It's coming up. In fact, the press just sent me the new covers today, and they look awesome. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.